Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome.
Oh,
We are so excited for this webinar. I think this broke the Tastemaker Instagram almost, right, Andrew? We had like 150 plus comments of people being like, give me the link to this. I think this is very timely right now with everything that's been happening in Google and with AI search. So, welcome to this webinar, Appétit, getting your food blog ready for the age of AI search. AI has changed the way people search for answers online, and food bloggers and creators across niches are wondering what that means for their websites. We're so excited to be teaming up with the NerdPress team today, specifically Andrew Wilder.
oh,
He's going to give this
oh no,
hands on webinar.
Abby,
Yes.
Abby, I think you're breaking up a little bit.
Oh man. Okay. So let me make a
You're not
disclaimer right ahead.
echoing.
I'm not okay. Everybody,
You
I
sound much better now.
apologize.
Okay.
Okay, I apologize for any technical glitches. I'm just going to make a disclaimer now. This platform, Riverside, is lovely, but it takes a lot of bandwidth. And I have been having technical issues. So if you guys start hearing an echo, say something in the chat. And hopefully in the post production, this will be fine. But I'm going to turn it over to you in just a second, Andrew. But a couple things for housekeeping. We will be publishing this recording as a replay on our YouTube channel, and as a registered attendee, you will get an email with the recording right to your inbox, and those should be available almost immediately after this ends. And then to kick off the chat, we would love if you could drop your name, where you're tuning in from. Please make use of the chat and the Q&A function. There is a little box in there, so you can drop a question in there directly. We'll circle back to that if we have time for the Q&A portion, because I know there's a lot to cover. So Andrew, I'm going to kick it over to you. We're so glad to have you here.
Oh, thank you. I'm very glad to be here. Let me share my screen real quick and hopefully get the right slides in front of everybody. And then I got to move my notes over here so I can actually look like I'm looking at all of you. Okay. Can you see my slides okay? I can't
They
I
look
can't tell if you're saying
fabulous.
yes. They look
Yes.
fabulous. Okay, you can see them. Great. All right. Well, so we literally just put the finishing touches on this slide deck 10 minutes ago because things are moving so fast with bots and AI. There's literally news like this morning that we had to incorporate. So this is all very, very fresh. I think the timing couldn't be any better. So let's start digging in. I'm guessing most of you know me already, but my name is Andrew Wilder. I'm the founder and CEO of NerdPress. We are a WordPress support and maintenance company. And of course, most of our clients are food bloggers. So I'm very glad to be talking with you today. I've been working on websites since 1998. And as I was putting together these bullet points, I was starting to feel really old. So we're not going to talk about that anymore. But I do want to call out that we're about 24 people on the team working to support all of you. And last year we became a certified B Corp. And that I think is really relevant when we're talking about AI because we talk a lot about responsible AI or ethical AI, or is ethical AI even possible? Is it an oxymoron? So I'm going to talk about that a little bit here, but that's not the big point of today. But I think that's sort of like the background questions we're all dealing with. And I think we need to keep having those conversations. But today I'm talking more about the technical things and the foundation that helps your content, your great content, get found and cited in AI chats and AI overviews. So we're not really focused on writing. I'm going to leave the brilliant writing and great content to you guys, but we're going to talk about what happens sort of more under the hood and some of the technical things and what you can do about it to help get found in those AI results. So as I was saying, AI is a very sensitive topic. And I know many of you, all of us maybe, are very frustrated and angry. Miranda sent me some stats like 75% of people are super distrustful of AI or anxious about AI. And it just has so many problems. It's trained on all of our content, the data centers and the energy use, and the AI slop that's flooding things. But it's coming anyway. And I don't want to be one of those people saying, oh, it's inevitable, just throw in the towel. But I think we need to learn to work with it. So I want us to be approaching AI as thoughtfully and responsibly as we can. And ultimately, our take is we want to give you the best information possible so that you can make informed decisions about your site and how you want to proceed. And then we'll support you in whatever you decide to do. So if I make a suggestion here that you don't agree with, that's totally cool. But I want you to have the options and make those calls for yourself and your business. So speaking of that, one of the options is to do some bot blocking. And I know we talked about this last year. Last summer, we introduced bot blocking features for our clients, for those who wanted to do it. And that was a piece with pay per crawl, which was supposedly coming. That hasn't materialized just yet. It's not dead, but it hasn't really materialized unless you're a really major player who has leverage to strike up your own brand deal. But one thing I want to talk about in the backdrop of this is when we talk about bot blocking, we're not talking about Googlebot or Bingbot, because Googlebot and Bingbot have both, Google and Microsoft have both decided we're going to use the same crawler for everything. So if you don't want to be in the AI overviews for Google, or if you don't want them to train, then you're not going to be in the search results either. So one more reason to be frustrated. But the point here is when we talk about bot blocking, we're talking about all the other bots. And Google still is the traffic juggernaut, but ChatGPT is gaining ground. They're the 5th most visited website, and Claude recently moved up to number 36. So a lot of people are using those too. But I don't want the conversation to be just about, do we block bots or don't we block bots? There's 3 types of crawlers. There's training crawlers, which are basically the ones that are used to train the models and keep the models fresh. There's search crawlers, and those are like Googlebot search indexing, where it will be building its index for just search results. And then there's user AI agents, and those are like when somebody says, hey, ChatGPT, can you go browse this website and tell me what's on it, or doing things. And those from a legitimate crawling company like OpenAI or Anthropic, they are going to identify those crawlers, and you can choose to block specific ones. So where I've kind of come down to, I think, striking a good balance, if you want to take a stand of any kind, it makes sense to block the training crawlers and then let the search and agents through. That prevents them from using your site or future content on your site for training new models. But then if a user says, hey, tell me about eatingrules.com, they can still search or use an agent to go fetch the data. And even if you block training crawls, you're not going to be invisible to the whole ecosystem, because there's so many other mentions of your site. So like they're going to know about your social, they're going to know about any other links to your site and references. So blocking training crawls doesn't hide you from the AI systems, basically. It just keeps them from training on your data. If you want to block, you can basic rudimentary tools block by filtering on the user agent string. And at that point, you're trusting the bot to declare that correctly. A more effective way to do it is to use a tool like Cloudflare Enterprise Bot Management. We include that with NerdPress services. And so if you're a NerdPress client and you want to block any bots or like the training bots, you can just shoot us an email and we can switch that on for you. And we keep a managed list of just training crawlers, so we can just turn that on for your site. Okay, so enough about bot blocking. 2 weeks ago at the Google I/O Summit, Google basically said, we are now an answer engine. We're no longer a search tool. This is the main paradigm shift. Answers are now synthesized from crawled content and not returned as a list of links, right? I think we've all kind of experienced that already. So the question is, how do we work with that new normal? But don't panic. Google made that announcement and we all started freaking out. I started freaking out. And so they immediately went to Twitter and said, no, we're not taking away the blue links. So all hope is not lost. At least they're not taking them away yet. But they're making it more intuitive and more likely that someone's going to start interacting with their AI features. So the blue links are effectively getting pushed down a bit. So they're not gone yet. And I don't think Google's going to get rid of them until they really have to. I think they're incentivized to keep those as well. So if you have the stomach for it, there's a blog post of 100 things that Google announced at Google I/O, and I pulled this screenshot logo from that announcement because it's so busy and chaotic. It just felt really appropriate. But I did a search on that page and the word recipes doesn't appear in those 100 things. They're not coming after recipes. I've been looking and looking, and food as a category is there, but when they reference it, it's in the context of groceries or meal planning, maybe, and getting things done. So that was really an interesting thing as I was digging through and putting this together. I think Google knows they don't want to go after recipes actively, I guess. One other interesting thing I found is Google has a product called Synth ID, and that is designed to help track and detect whether content was, specifically imagery, was AI generated, and it does an invisible watermark. And so they had some significant technical upgrades to that. And I thought that was really heartening because they're trying to combat AI slop as well. So that seems like a good move in the right direction. Another thing that gives me hope, earlier this year, Inspired Taste did a survey of over 2,000 home cooks, and they found that they are 3 times more likely to turn to food blogs for recipe inspiration than to AI tools. And only 12% said they would intentionally go to AI for a recipe. So your readers are still choosing you, and we want to keep it that way. A little bit about how AI works versus traditional search. The traditional search model was a bot would crawl the site, index it, rank it, and then return a list of links. AI search now is obviously much more broad. It crawls, it synthesizes all this information, it provides an answer in context, and it sometimes cites your content. I know we don't love it, but that's what it is right now. So the game shifts from where do I rank to how do I get quoted and get people to actually come to my website from that. Google also did some reporting on how people are using AI mode. And I thought there were some just interesting points here. 1 in 6 searches now use voice or images, and that's growing quickly. People are asking longer questions, and they're focused on getting things done. So a lot of queries related to planning, those have grown faster than AI queries overall. So that's where I think all of us have an opportunity, or all of you have an opportunity to do things like meal planning and grocery shopping and helping people with that. And people are also using it to brainstorm and make decisions. So it's sort of a thought partner. And the big difference with Google's big announcement is that basically instead of just an AI overview, it's going to make it easier to have a continuing conversation on Google itself. And the blog post that I've linked in here, we'll share these links later, but the blog post has some insights, and they link to a PDF report on this. And cooking, of the activities, the popular activities that people ask about, cooking is the 6th most popular. So it's still very popular. People are asking about AI, and what we want to do is get them over to your site. So another thing to think about is that there's the long tail where you've got your big pages, but then other pages get a little bit of traffic. The long tail is getting longer, and that's because AI crawlers go deep. They are crawling every page of your website, and they're doing it a lot more often. And then crawlers do what are called fan out searches. So if somebody types in a query, the AI tool may do 5 or 10 different searches where it runs different searches and may surface some of your content. So we're seeing bots hit all of those pages all the time. And they're really trying to understand your whole post. So I think my takeaway from this is if your content is good and it's discoverable and useful, keep it, even if you don't think it's getting a lot of traffic. I think that's the important thing. Don't just look at your analytics and say, oh, this page doesn't get any traffic, I'm going to ditch it, because that may not show up in GA4. But as long as it's good content. Now, if it's not good content or if it's thin content, you're not proud to have it on your site, then either delete it or improve it. But don't just base it on traffic alone. Another interesting stat I found, this comes from Cloudflare Radar, which is a great tool to just poke through data that they're seeing across their big slice of the internet. So I encourage you to go to radar.cloudflare.com and poke around. But one that caught my eye here was that of HTML traffic, like downloading just HTML pages and other resources, 58% of those downloads are now bots, not humans. So that's how much these things are crawling your HTML. Another piece of good news, measuring AI visibility is getting easier. Before it was like totally opaque. There was no way to know if you're getting mentioned. There are third-party tools that are working on this too, but this is the slide I just had to update this morning because Google just made a big announcement about it. But Bing Webmaster Tools a few weeks ago added an AI performance dashboard. Microsoft Clarity has a citations dashboard. So if you're already connected in those tools, you can go there and see what people are searching for and what is causing your site to be cited. Google Analytics also now, by default, if you get traffic to your site from one of the AI assistants, like ChatGPT or Claude, they will tag them as AI assistant in the tracking code. So it'll be the medium or the source. So they're grouping those as AI assistant. And then literally about an hour or two ago, Google just published an announcement that they are going to include generated AI performance reports in Google Search Console. So that's hot off the presses. I checked a few of our client sites that have high traffic, and I didn't see it in theirs yet. So none of the sites dashboards I have access to have it. But it's coming. It'll be in the performance section, basically where you're looking at the historical traffic of what you're getting from the regular indexing. It's going to be in there for your search performance and your AI performance. So I'm excited to have some visibility there as well. Google has a fantastic AI optimization guide on their website. The link's down there. And I think that was last updated about 2 weeks ago. The funny thing when you read through it is almost all of it is the same stuff we've been saying for 20 years. And this is the one big takeaway: create valuable non-commodity content for your audience. So what is special about the recipe that you are sharing that nobody else can do? What makes it uniquely yours? And if you've been listening to me talk over the years and on the SEO bloggers, what is your unique perspective? What is it that makes you uniquely you that people are going to want? That's the kind of content that's getting surfaced in the AI overviews.
Andrew, I don't mean
Yes,
to interrupt you, but
please.
I'm very intrigued by the word that they chose, non-commodity. So to
No.
clarify, non-commodity means unique to you, or is this something we could riff on for 20 minutes about what they mean by non-commodity? I don't want to take up a lot of your time, but I just want to clarify. What does that
Um,
mean?
so I think the example I saw them give is very basic stuff. So like, how there's those websites that do like basic information, like time and date stuff, or like
Mm-hmm.
metric conversions, like really like stuff that all of us are probably not even leaving Google to get, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would say that's certainly commodity content.
Okay.
I don't know where that line is drawn. Like, is a basic chocolate chip cookie recipe non-commodity?
Yeah.
And I think at this point in our context, I'd say it is. Um, I don't have anything to back that up, but if all the hundreds of people listening to this right now have a chocolate chip cookie recipe on their website, it is kind of a commodity. So what is it
Yeah.
about your chocolate chip cookie recipe that really makes it work,
Mm.
right?
Great
Maybe it's,
description.
yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe
Love
maybe I'm just going to throw this out there. Maybe it's that you can eat the cookie dough raw. Just saying,
that. Ooh, hot tip.
right? So I actually want to go through some of the bullet points, and I really recommend everybody read this article. But these are their words I'm using. Provide a unique point of view. Create non-commodity content that's helpful, reliable, and people first. Organize the content in a way that helps your readers. Add high-quality images and video. I'm sure you're all doing that already. Focus on what your users want and avoid overdoing it. I think that means if you start to do like one recipe that works, don't do 6 more that are almost identical, right? They also called out that if you're using any generative AI tools to help create your content, make sure you focus on accuracy, quality, and relevance. And I really appreciate this. They said, be transparent with your audience about how the content was created. So I know some publishers are starting to use this more, where they're going in and having ChatGPT help them draft a blog post, say. So I think you have to give it really good inputs that are uniquely you. Otherwise, your output's going to be very generic. So be careful on that, please. But these are the ones, and I know we've been saying this, and this stuff is so much easier to say than to do, but this is the stuff that makes really great content. They also call out a lot of the same SEO rules, like the fundamentals. And for many of you, this is like old hat, and it's kind of just obvious and should go without saying, but you'd be surprised at how often we come across things where like pages are marked as no index, right? Or there is duplicate content, or the server is running really slowly. So this stuff still happens and needs to be monitored and maintained. So your site has to be online. It has to be returning a 200 OK status code. It has to be fast, right? Obviously, don't block Googlebot. Provide a good page experience. That means Core Web Vitals have to be good, and your accessibility has to be good. having a strong site structure and internal linking, like basically making your whole site well organized, right? One of the other thing they called out here is that you don't have to worry too much about having perfect HTML code. So if it doesn't validate properly, that may be okay as long as the pages render okay. Google's like, yeah, we can handle that. So don't stress too much about that. And another thing they call out is really long pages. So one of the things, if you have posts that have a lot of comments, especially, make sure you're paginating those comments. So, if you've got 300 or 400 comments on one page, if it's all on one page with no pagination, that can dilute your main content or make it really hard for any bot to read the content.
We have a question that is relevant to this topic. I'm going to ask right now. It's from
Please.
Sarah Jenkins. She said, I thought it was okay to have some pages no indexed if they are being updated.
If you don't want it indexed, totally fine to no index it. However, if you're updating a page, I think it's better not to mark it as no index and then re-index it. It used to be that Google took a very long time to catch up. Like the no index directive used to be super sticky. And I remember Casey was always saying, like, don't ever do that because it could take you months to re-index. I don't think that's the case anymore. But if you no index it, it's kind of like deleting it from a crawler's perspective. So if the content's really bad and embarrassing, you're like, this is horrible, I can't let the world see it, then maybe you want to no index it. But as a matter of practice, like if you're just going through and updating old blog posts, I wouldn't switch it to no index and then switch it back. Another thing is don't move it to a draft while you're updating it. We just had a client, we just found a client was doing that. And she was updating old content. She'd move it back to draft, make the changes, then republish it. And she didn't realize that was basically causing the page to be a 404 because WordPress makes that very confusing. So I don't think you need to no index it. So does that help? I can't see you, so I'm going to assume you're nodding, Abby.
Oh, sorry, you're presenting. I gave you a thumbs up. That is
Okay,
a
great.
great answer. Thank you.
Another thing I wanted to call out is how agents, quote unquote, see your site. They don't browse the web the same way humans do, really. There's basically 3 ways they look at it. They will take a screenshot. So they will render the whole page and then take a screenshot. That is slow and expensive and uses a lot of tokens because it basically they have to render the whole thing, take the screenshot, and then interpret that. So it's sort of error prone. The other way they do it is the raw HTML. So they just download the main HTML document. They're doing a lot of that. That's why 58% of HTML downloads are by bots. So that lets them see the actual content on your page, but that doesn't help them render it. They have to kind of interpolate what's going on there. And then the other thing, I wasn't aware of this one. I thought this was really cool. The accessibility tree. This is basically a bullet pointed outline of your content. And you can see the accessibility tree for your site in Chrome DevTools or in any DevTools, I think. So if you view source of your page, not view source, if you open developer tools, depending on, you can go to the menu and hit open DevTools. That'll give you the sidebar panel and you're viewing one of your pages. If you go to elements and then in the subsection, go to accessibility, you can toggle on show accessibility tree and it lets you browse. And you can see this in the screenshot. I did this for one of my pages. And you get an idea of how how the crawlers are seeing your site. And I think this is really important to tie it back to accessibility. I've been talking about accessibility for like 7 or 8 years now, and making it accessible for screen readers, which is what we were looking at before, is also making it accessible for bots. Some other SEO stuff that's very important, sitemaps. If you're using Yoast SEO or other tools, they will create a sitemap automatically on your site. But if you have another screen open, I recommend you go to your website, yourdomain.com/sitemap_index.xml, and your browser will render it for you. You can look at the sitemap index. That's going to link to other sitemap pages like your posts and your pages and your categories. What we want to do there is make sure you're including all your good content, so all your blog posts, all your pages, but you're excluding any thin content. So any categories, or if you still have lots of tags, tag archives pages, and that are just like repeating blog posts and they're not really adding any value, you can have Yoast exclude those from the sitemap. What this does is it helps narrow the focus of what the crawlers are being told to crawl by your site to the best content. And the other thing you want to make sure you do for Google discoverability is in Google Search Console, go to indexing sitemaps and add your sitemap there. You only need to add the sitemap index, so just that one URL. It will discover the other sub sitemaps, and then that will help it start crawling those. Schema. Most of you probably know about schema already. For food bloggers, recipe schema is the most well known. So when you're using WP Recipe Maker or Tasty Recipes, and you input your recipe into the recipe card, in the backend, that is generating schema. And what schema does is it helps crawlers know what's on the page in a coded fashion, so it's easier for them to read. It also tells what type of thing it is. So it says this is a recipe, or this website represents a person or an organization, or it's a frequently asked questions. And just recently, Google announced that they are dropping FAQ-rich results from the search results. And so a lot of people said, oh, I should remove my FAQ schema. And actually, don't do that. There's a lot of other good reasons to keep your frequently asked questions schema and your frequently asked questions. And the bottom line is, if you have frequently asked questions already on your site, if they're actually questions people ask frequently, please keep them there. And if you don't have those, I think it's still good to do that. And using something like the Yoast FAQ block makes it easy to put them in a nice format. And other crawlers can still crawl them as well. And it also doesn't mean that Google isn't crawling the data. It just means they're not showing the FAQ rich results. They had actually removed it for all but a few categories, like I think medical or hospitals and a few others. So don't make any changes. Like, don't remove your FAQ schema. Please don't go back to all your posts and delete that just because of Google's announcement. Another thing that came out recently, Yoast created the schema map, which basically takes all of the schema from all of your pages across your entire site and puts them into just a couple of URLs that are like a massive list of schema, like all aggregated in one place. And if you go to schema-visualizer.yoast.com, you can put in, if you turn this on, you just switch it on in the Yoast settings. It's off by default. Once you switch it on, you can go there and it'll find your schema map, and then it'll give you a visualizer where you can see all the connected spokes of ingredients and authors and all of the various things that how they connect. It's actually pretty cool. But the idea is this way, a crawler doesn't have to crawl your every page one by one. It can get all of your schema at the same time. One other thing I want to mention about schema is don't overdo it. And schema should always represent what's actually visible on the page. So don't schema stuff, so to speak. And if you're doing the frequently asked questions schema, make sure the facts are visible on the page. Your recipe should be visible. All of that should basically be, the schema should match what's on the page. Another thing I want to mention here is content signals. Cloudflare basically created this last year. They just decided we're going to come up with this new robots.txt directive, where you can say, hey, AI, you can train, or you're not allowed to train, but search is okay or not. And this basically aligns with the 3 different types of bots. So if you are doing any bot blocking, you may want to add the content signals to your robots.txt. So just something to be aware of. I don't know if any crawlers are actually respecting this stuff. So TBD, but it's something to keep an eye on. And then I just mentioned robots.txt. So this file tells crawlers what they're allowed to access. It also can point them to your sitemap. So if you're, you can go to your site and just view this. If you go to yourdomain.com/robots.txt, it's just a little text file that shows up. If you don't have one, you probably want one. If you don't have one, Yoast may auto-generate one. But if you have one actually on the server that you've created, then it will show that one. So I've got a screenshot here of ours, and it's pretty straightforward. There's not like we're not blocking anything, so there's not a lot of stuff in here. But you can say, hey, I don't want Claude user agents crawling my site. If you are blocking bots with something like Cloudflare, the strategy can change a little bit depending on if you want to just block everything with a 403 forbidden response. But if you are trying to send a signal like a 402 payment required, as like a foundational thing towards pay per crawl. You actually want to do the payment required response from Cloudflare, but not block them in the robots.txt, because you actually want them to hit the URL and then get that response. So it gets a little complicated depending on what your goals are. But if you don't want to block things, then it's pretty simple. Another thing I want to call out is the importance of your about page. It should be clear. It should have your name, a real photo of you, a genuine background. Make sure that photo doesn't look like it was created by AI. I've seen some people, run a real photo through like touch-up software, and it's so strong that it looks like, oh, you know what, you don't look real. So I think the more real and genuine your photo or photos on your about page can be, and the more you prove you are a unique, brilliant human being, the better off you'll be. And you'll want to list any credentials you've got and your experience that makes you qualified to be sharing this content. Another detail on the about that some people miss is in your WordPress profile, there are places to add things like your Instagram link and your Facebook profile and your Twitter link and any of the socials. And when you do that, when you add them to your profile, Yoast will take that and add it to your schema and say, hey, same as. So when somebody goes to Eating Rules, my food blog, they know that the Eating Rules Instagram account are connected because of that. So I'm the same person. And that helps all the crawlers understand the various pieces. And as we increase our surface area of being omnipresent, that helps connect the dots and creates an entity that it understands about you. Google preferred sources. This isn't brand new, many of you have been doing it already. This is where your readers can select your domain to be a preferred source for them. This launched last year, I think in the fall. Where readers can basically click a button, go over to a setting page in their Google account and say, hey, I want Eating Rules to be a preferred source. And when it launched, it basically was only really helping surface those sites in Discover and Top Stories, but they just rolled that out to AI search. So if somebody has marked you as a preferred source or marked your site as a preferred source, and your content is cited in the AI overviews or in AI mode, they're now adding a preferred badge right there. I don't know if you can see it in the screenshot, but it actually is showing preferred. So it's more likely to come up and be referenced because the person has said, hey, I want that content, and it's saying preferred, which is pretty sweet. So this is huge. I think Google just announced that about 345,000 websites have now been seen as preferred sources, like where at least one person has marked it as a preferred source. Just a month or two ago, it was like 90,000. So it's really taking off. And you want to make sure that your readers are marking your site as a preferred source, and that's going to help increase your stickiness. That may not get you new readers, but it's going to keep the current ones coming back. And we'll share some more links on that and how it works. This one's so important. I made 2 slides. So it's not complicated to encourage your readers to go do this. The link format is just google.com/preferences/source. And then it's $Q for the query, and then your domain. So all you do is swap in that domain. So you can put this in any link. You can put it in an email. You can email all your readers and say, hey, don't forget to add me as a preferred source. Just test the link and make sure you actually come up. We have seen adding the www sometimes works better. It's a little finicky. So test those. You can also do your site name like spelled out. Right? So it can be the chocolate chip cookie baker instead of the domain. So try those and make sure it actually comes up before you send out the link. And then you want to add buttons on all of your site to get people to do this, right? So for those of you who use or want to use Hubbub, in our action buttons, we have a button that is add us as a Google trusted source. You can change the language, but it links there. And we've made it really easy to just automatically add that button at the top or bottom or anywhere you want in your posts. This is a little bit of a content thing. At the top of your posts, it's really helpful to add a summary, not an AI generated summary necessarily, but a too long didn't read where it's like, hey, what can people expect to get in this post? That helps humans who are always impatient, and it also helps bots understand what they're going to get. So if there's something unique about your chocolate chip cookie recipe, call that out at the top, what it is. And that's going to encourage people to read on, and it's also going to help the AI agents know, hey, this is a source for this specialness. Another one we uncovered here was this was a December report. Somebody analyzed over 250 million AI searches, and they found that the top search citations, 11%, 11.4% more were for had natural language slugs. So instead of the URL being like just a post ID, like in numbers or just abbreviations or something, having 4 to 7 readable words in the URL actually helped. Now, I don't know if that's correlation or causation, but URLs have always been one of the things considered as a ranking factor. They haven't been a major one, but there is definitely a correlation here. So do not go change your URLs because I said that. If you do that, you're fired. But think about this for future posts. So when you're creating your posts, you can change the permalink or the slug, and you want that to be 4 to 7 readable words that really encapsulate what that post is about. And again, don't keyword stuff. And again, don't go back and change your old posts because I said that. Cloudflare also recently released a free tool that scans your site for AI agent readiness. This tool can get really complex because they're digging into, they're not looking at just content websites. They're looking at a lot of other things like e-commerce and how functional that website is. But if you go to your site, go to isitagentready.com and you can type in your URL. I recommend you customize the scan and click content site because it's going to test a whole bunch of other stuff that's going to be scary sounding otherwise. And then you can see the result there. So it'll check your robots.txt. It'll check your site maps. It'll check a few other things. And you may or may not care about what it flags. Just because it flags something doesn't mean you need it, but it's a helpful tool that gives you some advice there. It takes a look. Google also called out some myths about generative AI search. One of the things they said is they don't care about LLMs.txt. That doesn't mean you shouldn't use it, but Google is saying for search, no. So if you have a specific reason to use an LLMs.txt, which is basically a text file, kind of like robots.txt that has some information for crawlers, if you have a very specific reason for having it, great. But otherwise, I wouldn't waste your time. Google also doesn't care about Markdown format. They're apparently totally fine with just reading HTML. Again, if you have some other specific reason to be serving Markdown, for example, the Hubbub documentation, we have that all able to be served in Markdown because we want crawlers to be able to really digest it quickly. But that's more like for discovery for us. That's a different strategy there. They also say not to over-focus on structured data. And so that goes back to what I was saying is like the schema. Structured data is schema. Those are synonymous, basically. So that goes back to if it's in the schema, it should be visible on the page. So we've been seeing an increase in clients starting to use AI agents themselves to help manage their sites and their content. And along with that, we've seen a lot of bad advice coming in, particularly from AI chats. Someone will ask ChatGPT a question about their site, or they see a problem in Search Console, and it gives them some advice. And we have seen some disastrous advice, and that's because generic AI agents, they don't have enough context. They don't really have enough expertise on what makes all the complexities of a food blog in particular. So they can give you really bad advice, and they can do it really quickly. And we're also hearing that some people are starting to have agents make changes on their site. Well, if they interpret something you say wrong, they can basically make changes very, very quickly, right? And really do a lot of damage in a very short amount of time. So this is a big problem. We've been putting a lot of thought into this, and we're working on a solution. One of the other things I want to mention is if you're building your own apps, a neighbor of mine who's in the software industry, he said to me recently, 90% of the cost of software is maintaining it. Building software is free now and very, very fast. Anybody can build a dashboard today, right? The trick is maintaining it, hosting it, keeping it running. We've been finding this. I built a whole bunch of internal tools for NerdPress, and now I'm like, okay, great. I've got to add a feature, or I've got to update the security. Like, there's a lot of work to maintaining it. So that's something that if you're going to be building these apps, I want you to do that with your eyes wide open. So anyway, yes, I have thoughts on this. So we are working on a solution for this. We are literally, as I speak, we are building safe agentic tools to work on WordPress websites. So this is a bit of a teaser. We haven't launched it yet, but I want everybody to go, if you're interested, go to nerdpress.net/safe. Or if you have your phone, you can scan the QR code. It's just a quick email opt-in, so you can get on the list to be among the first to know that we are ready to launch it. Of course, NerdPress clients are going to get access to this first. It's going to be, of course, opt-in. And I think the most important thing that we're keeping in mind is we are keeping our expert humans in the loop. We don't want to outsource our brains to AI. What we want to do is help us use AI more effectively and efficiently so we can do more with our expertise and experience. So that's my pitch for that. Please go sign up for the waitlist, and we will have more information on that coming soon. And okay, I think that's it. So I've got a slide for questions, but we could probably drop back to video.
Yeah, we have like 5 minutes. We have questions in the chat. That was so insightful. I think like my big takeaway, if I can just add my thoughts here, is that we've talked about this when we did our webinar, 6 months ago, talking about this. And I use this analogy. I think it's a good metaphor to think about like how you get published in academics, and you have to be cited, and you do that because you're the expert, and you do that because you create great content. And so that can be a little daunting to be like, I have to be the status of a researcher now as a creator. Well, yeah, kind of. um
Yeah.
in a world where like your goal is to be getting cited, like it's a lot of work. But this is super helpful. So let me go into our questions here.
Okay.
Oh, my camera turned off. That was fun. So, I'm trying to pick out some of the best ones here because I know we won't have a time to get to all of them. So, there's a couple questions here from Michelle and Jessica about the too long didn't read tip you gave. Jessica is wondering if you have an example of one that you think is really great, whether that's now or you can send up follow links. And then Michelle's wondering where's the best position or the best place in the post to position that summary. And again, they want examples of that. So any
Yeah.
thoughts, or do you want to send a follow up?
I have thoughts.
Okay.
Actually, so you want to position it at the top of the post. So it should be basically right up after your post title and everything. You put it near the top. It can be after your first image. But I'd say position it in a place that makes sense for a human, but near the top so it's discoverable. As for examples, I actually thought about putting some examples in, some screenshots in, and I don't want to because I want everybody to think for themselves and not just copy what others are doing. And I know it's helpful to have some guidance, but it's really not, don't overthink it. Is I think the other thing. I will say I'm seeing some people where they do bullet points, just like a list of like ingredients. Other people are doing like prep time, cook time. I think there is no right answer for that specifically. And it should be highlighting what people need to know about that post. So if this is a mashed potatoes recipe that is particularly good because it is vegan, then you want to call that out in some way of like what the ingredient they're going to need is. If there are any special ingredients, it might be a good example. The other thing people are doing is they're putting it in a box, and they're also putting in some action buttons in there. So that's a good place to put the preferred source. And if you are experimenting with action buttons where you're doing things like find 5 more recipes with ChatGPT, you can put an action button up there as well. Space is very limited on a food blog, right? It's really at a premium. So we've got that. You've probably got a save this recipe form. And of course, you've got ads. Everything's competing for space, right? So you really just have to make the best call you can about where to put that. I do think it's okay I see Amy's question, why not put it in the intro? I think you can. That's the thing. I don't want everybody to start putting the exact same box there because that's just going to not be interesting or unique. Another example, I like when I have a post with an affiliate link, I don't like to have the standard, this post may contain affiliate links at the top, see my disclaimer, because you're putting something that's kind of off-putting at the top and steering people away and bots away and like diluting your content. I always like to say, hey, I tested this, here's my affiliate link, and work it in naturally. And I know that's hard to do because often links are automatic, but it's just an example of like, think about how you're presenting this to a human and what they need to know at the start, the bots are the same. You know, the irony of TLDR stands for too long, didn't read. It just means a summary. Also, hi Jason.
Great question. Amy is also, I think this is a good one to cover. We have one more question, time for one more. And
Okay,
hi, Amy. She's asking, is it important to have two about pages, one for you as a person and one for your site or brand? If so, which one is linked to the recipe card? I think that's an interesting question.
I think it depends on you and your site. Um, if you are the brand, that's more confusing than anything else. I wouldn't do it for a solo blogger generally, where it's like I'm writing about my recipes and my life, and here's my opinions on things. Like then you're kind of splitting it, you're diluting it. If you're if you have a whole bunch of products, like you've built out your business, so it's not just the Abby show, right? You might have an about the company page as well, but only if it makes sense. If you have multiple authors, I think that's where it also starts to make sense, where you have it about the website, about the blog, and then here are the 4 or 5 authors or however many, and each of them can have their own about page.
That's a helpful example. Okay, I think this is a good ending question because it's a little more thought provoking instead of super technical. So Asta Sheth is asking, what advantages do small creators have over larger websites in the AI search era?
Define small.
I would say maybe like new, beginner.
New.
You have 10,000 sessions or under 5,000 followers. A
Um,
beginner.
you're nimble, and you're not carrying lots and lots of technical debt. Um,
Technical debt.
like
Ooh. What
if
a
you've
good
been doing this
term.
for if you've been doing this for 15 years and you've got 5,000 blog posts, you're going to have a lot of crap out there, and working through all that
Mhm.
backlog is hard, right? So you're kind of starting fresh. Um, but I'm not going to like I'm grasping honestly for an advantage, to be honest. Like
Yeah,
it's getting harder. I think social is really the place to be building an audience now.
yeah.
It's sadly Pinterest is um, I won't say worthless for traffic, but Pinterest isn't what it was.
Mhm.
And basically, Google's not going to be what it was. And so we are all going to be needing to find, if your business model is get traffic to your website, then you're going to need to find other ways to get traffic to your website. You know, each click though will be worth more in the future. That was the point of the email that Eric from Mediavine sent out, right?
Mhm.
You know, the pattern of, oh, I've got 10 links, and um, I click to 6 different recipes and go back and forth till I find the one I like, that's going to be gone. And so you're going to lose that thin traffic. But when somebody comes to your site because it was cited in an overview and that's the site they really want, you're going to have a much stickier experience and a much better experience. And I'd say, don't let that opportunity slip away. Really build that relationship with that person, because they're going to have to be worth 5 or 10 times what a visit was
Mhm.
before.
Yeah, great advice. Yeah, and just really the era of choosing I'm a food blogger versus I'm a social first creator, that it's kind of over. It's you got to be all of it.
Yeah.
Um, and so
What's
that's
Carson's word is omnipresent.
you have to be omnipresent. That is a
No
much more
pressure.
official term. No pressure. But I think, that's why we built Tastemaker. That's why we have, great resources like Andrew and his team at NerdPress and just a lot of our partners that we work with is like we're all genuinely invested in the creator economy and the work that you've created. So I hope this was super helpful. Thank you so much, Andrew, for sharing your time and knowledge and expertise. You're always so generous. And if you have your ticket to San Antonio in January, there's the link. You get to meet Andrew and his team and see them. They always, bring their A game and are so helpful in the audits and help on site and all the information that they provide. So let me go here. Do you have a social media info, your website, anything that you want to share with people where they can find you, Andrew?
Oh yeah, and I know Miranda's in the chat sharing some stuff, but I'll share my screen again real fast because I still got my slides up. Um, so you can find us at nerdpress.net. And if you have questions or interest in learning more about working with us, you can reach out to us at support@nerdpress.net. And we're also on Instagram at at NerdPress team. And I'll go back one more time and give you that other link, nerdpress.net/safe. So you can get on the wait list to learn more about what we're building for safe agentic tools.
That's super exciting. Congratulations on that. And I'm a longtime user of NerdPress on my website. You guys are the best. So thank you again.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.